Filipinas se enfrenta a 4 días de fuertes vientos e intensas precipitaciones y calcula que más de 4,5 millones de niños y niñas van a quedar afectados por el paso del tifón. Copu ha forzado la evacuación de 5.852 familias y ha causado un corte generalizado de electricidad.
El fuerte temporal que azota el Sáhara está afectando especialmente a los campos de refugiados, donde las inundaciones han derribado varios edificios públicos y han arrasado las casas de adobe y las jaimas. A las intensas lluvias se suman las tormentas de arena.
Atrapados en una masa de barro. Así es como han quedado cientos de coches y camiones en esta autopista al sur de California tras las lluvias de los últimos días. Algunos apenas sobresalen del lodo y en las carreteras las máquinas trabajan para retirar el espeso manto de tierra.
Esta madrugada se han vivido horas de angustia en las zonas afectadas por el terremoto de 7,5 grados que ha sacudido Afganistán, Pakistán y el norte de la India. Ya son más de 200 los muertos y más de 1.000 los heridos. Los hospitales se encuentran colapsados.
Neonicotinoids are among the most widely used pesticides in the world. They bring in billions in profits for the companies that make them. But now, growing evidence shows that these insecticides are not only killing target pests, they are killing many beneficial species and destroying the base of the food chain. Are they the new DDT? It began with honeybees. In 2006, large numbers of worker bees began to abruptly disappear from honeybee colonies. Since then, beekeepers have been losing 30% or more of their hives annually, losses that are higher than normal. This phenomenon came to be called colony collapse disorder.
Neonicotinoids are a relatively new class of insecticide, coming on the scene in the 1990s. It is the fastest growing group of insecticides in the United States.
They became popular because they were used as a systemic insecticide, so you could apply it to the seed and it would just be put in the ground and the plant would take it up as it grows, eventually giving the plant protection from pests.
They're found in the leaves, the stems, the roots, and the pollen and the nectar. And nobody really thought about that weak link, which was toxic pollen, toxic nectar, and toxic for a long time in these crops.
Neonicotinoids are nerve toxins affecting the nervous system of organisms. And it's not only pollinators at risk. In June 2014, the Task Force on Systemic Pesticides, an independent group of scientists from 15 nations, found that neonics and the pesticide fipronil also harm birds, amphibians, reptiles, as well as terrestrial and aquatic invertebrates. Earthworms, vital for soil productivity, are especially vulnerable.
They're accumulating in the soil, they're drawn up by hedgerow plants, by trees growing in farmland and so on. And so essentially anything that's living in farmland is being slowly poisoned all the time.
These are really broadly toxic to insects throughout the environment. And most importantly, they are readily transferred from farm fields, from your backyard, into water that goes into streams and rivers that sustains the life of many aquatic organisms. So we know that these are highly toxic to aquatic insects and that they're now routinely found throughout the United States and Europe in these aquatic systems. One of the things that we're now seeing is really some widespread resistance of pests to these chemicals. They're being used at such high levels and being used in a prophylactic manner, which means they're used regardless of whether there's pests or not. That is the perfect recipe for resistance. Unfortunately, the system is set up where these are promoted as a safety net. You know, you can use these things and then you just don't have to worry about it. And that's a big failing of the agricultural system, how it's set up, as well as the chemical companies that are really just promoting their use. We approve chemicals really at the speed of light. They're approved really quickly because these chemical companies have a lot of money at stake. But then when we find that they are potentially problematic for human health, for the environment, for pollinators, these agencies move at a glacial pace to potentially pull them off the market. Should we be feeding this to the next generation when we don't know the real ramifications of doing that? Everybody is eating a chemical that is very closely related to nicotine when we know that nicotine is so cancer-causing. And we really have not done the long-term studies to show whether neonicotinoids are. To me, that is a real failing of the system as well. It's not just about bees, it's not just about the environment, it's that we're not taking care of humans.
This is Gradowski of wearechange.org here in Fukushima in one of the exclusion zones, totally restricted zone. We were here only for a few hours reporting the calamity, the extent, not only of the damage, but of the dangers when it comes to Fukushima.
Normal background radiation, we're told by the people, is that it's supposed to be around 0.23, and what we saw on our reader was 40.
The government here and TEPCO have been downplaying the severity and the real dangers of this because there really is no solution with this power plant. They keep dumping water in there, but that is not a sustainable long-term solution. Many experts are saying that it is at a brink, at another meltdown, and if that happens, it's going to be not only a catastrophe for Japan, but also for North America.
All of this plant life that's been booming, all of the water, everything's accumulating on the ground, and it's particularly radioactive. And in order to decontaminate the area, they have to strip all that away, put it in bags, but then where do the bags go?
Exactly, and they're wrapped in plastic, and it's raining, and the sun is on them, and as we know, plastic is definitely not a good concealer of anything, and the enormity of it, with it just beginning, is just scary. It's insane, because it's everywhere, and they don't know what to do with it, and they don't even know what to do with the reactor. So this is just an insane situation that is being downplayed, that is not being talked about. There's no life, there's nothing here. Everything is totally destroyed, either from the tsunami or from the earthquake. There are no birds, and we're also hearing reports of the evacuees stories being censored by the media here because the Japanese government is preparing for the 2020 Olympics. They just reopened up their nuclear power plants here as well, and they want to keep a squeaky clean image and get away from all of their wrongdoings and misleadings that have caused tremendous human suffering.
I'm really appalled at the way the international system has failed. I mean, quite frankly, we don't get anything through the media. There's no general understanding of the situation here in Europe because the media are not putting this view forward. In fact, I think many people would be very surprised that it was still a matter for discussion. And they would be even more surprised to learn that it's still an ongoing accident and that it hasn't terminated yet. And they'd be even more surprised that nobody has any good ideas on how to stop it. It's against international law to dump radioactivity into the sea, but that is precisely what is happening on a daily basis.
One of the main reasons why Europe has not been able to find a proper answer for this challenge is that we actually don't name the challenge as it is. Because this is not a refugee crisis, this is not a migration crisis, this is a mass popular movement with an unlimited sources of supply of people.
Die Realität ist, dass viele hunderttausend Menschen durch Deutschland ziehen und nach Deutschland gekommen sind, die wir nicht identifiziert haben und die wir auch noch nicht registriert haben. Das heißt, Menschen, von denen wir nicht wissen, wo sie herkommen. Wir wissen nicht, was sie in Deutschland tatsächlich wollen und wo sie sich in Deutschland gerade aufhalten. In Flüchtlingsheimen erleben wir, dass Menschen auf engstem Raum zusammenleben und in sehr schwierigen Situationen zusammen sind. Da sind unterschiedliche Religionen und Kulturen zusammen. Und dann kommt es natürlich zu Zusammenstößen, weil man sich nicht versteht, weil man Konflikte in der Heimat schon hatte, aber auch, weil es zum Beispiel Auseinandersetzungen gibt, die schlicht krimineller Natur sind. Politiker neigen dazu, die Dinge zu relativieren und zu sagen, bei uns ist alles nicht so schlimm, es sind nur Einzelfälle. Die Wahrheit ist, es sind Tausende von Fällen. Allein in Hamburg hat es in diesem Jahr über 1000 Polizeieinsätze gegeben, nur in den Flüchtlingseinrichtungen mit großen Schlägereien. Und die Politik versucht immer alles so darzustellen, als hat es nur kleine Rempeleien bei der Essensausgabe gegeben. Hinzu kommt ein ganz besonders trübseliges Kapitel deutscher Politik, dass nämlich die Flüchtlinge in zunehmendem Maße miserabel untergebracht sind. Sie haben erwartet, dass sie hier wenigstens ein Dach über dem Kopf haben und müssen unter freiem Himmel kapieren. Das heißt, die Leute sind aggressiv und wütend und das kann man auch verstehen. Man muss beispielsweise in den Flüchtlingseinrichtungen dafür sorgen, dass professionelle Dienste dort das Personal stellen. Wir brauchen Konfliktmanager, die frühzeitig solche Konflikte erkennen und beherrschen. Und dann brauchen wir noch mehr Polizisten, die für den Bereich des Außenschutzes für Sicherheit sorgen. Wir haben 10-mal so viele Angriffe auf Flüchtlingsunterkünfte wie 2014, jetzt schon, und die Zahlen steigen noch weiter. Fast täglich finden irgendwo Brandanschläge auf Asylunterkünfte statt. Und wir haben große Sorge, dass sich daraus Rechtsterrorismus entwickelt. Und es gibt tatsächlich die große Gefahr, dass sich Teile der rechten Szene, die auf diese Asylbewerberunterkünfte Attacken ausüben, Anschläge ausüben, radikalisieren und dann auch zu terroristischen Anschlägen kommen. Die Politik ist nicht in der Lage, die Dinge vernünftig zu organisieren, sodass die Menschen auch vorbereitet sind auf Flüchtlinge, sondern sie werden immer vor vollendete Tatsachen gestellt und das macht die Menschen wütend. Das rechtfertigt keine Attacken auf Flüchtlinge, aber es lässt nachvollziehen, warum die Menschen so reagieren. Und wenn in einem Dorf, wo 100 Menschen leben, 1000 Asylbewerber hinzukommen, dann kann man verstehen, dass die Menschen Angst haben.
Wir sehen hier kein Licht am Ende des Tunnels, sagen uns die Menschen in den Flüchtlingslagern im Nordirak. Keine Zukunft, keine Hoffnung auf Rückkehr in ihre alte Heimat. Das neue Ziel, erklären sie uns, heißt Deutschland. Mein Sohn ist schon dort, wir haben gerade telefoniert. Er hat Geld bekommen, eine Wohnung. Die Deutschen werden für uns Häuser bauen, hat er mir gesagt. Bald ziehen wir alle dorthin. Seit die arabischen Nachrichtensender von deutscher Willkommenskultur berichten, werden die Erwartungen an Deutschland grenzenlos. Mein 14-jähriger Sohn Hattab macht sich auf den Weg. Er hat die besten Chancen. Minderjährige werden in Deutschland nicht ausgewiesen und dürfen ihre Familie nachholen. So höre ich in den Nachrichten. Wunschvorstellungen grenzenlos. Für die Menschen in diesen Lagern ist Deutschland das gelobte Land, das Ziel aller Träume. Tausende sind schon aufgebrochen, viele sitzen auf gepackten Koffern, mehrere 10.000 werden noch kommen.
Es sind nach offiziellen Quellen allein 600.000 Syrer und Iraker auf dem Weg Richtung Europa. Was glauben Sie, wie viele noch kommen?
Wenn die Amerikaner und die Europäer so weitermachen mit der Politik, Millionen. Warum kommen sie und woher? Sie kommen in allererster Linie aus Syrien, Irak, Afghanistan und Kosovo als Vierte. Was haben diese Länder gemeinsam? Da wurden Demokratieexperimente praktiziert. Was hat man in Afghanistan gemacht? Man hat doch das Land demokratisiert vor 15 Jahren. Warum kommen sie alle? Sie haben doch die Demokratie, wunderbar. Was ist mit dem Irak? Warum kommen sie alle aus dem Irak? Was ist mit Syrien? In Syrien wurde Regime-Change betrieben, mit Hilfe von CIA, mit Hilfe von Saudi-Arabien, mit Hilfe von Katar.
Nun muss man wissen, Regierungswechsel, also ist das Ziel der amerikanischen Politik gewesen. Und das Erste wäre, dass die USA mal aufhört, eben zu sagen, eine Regierung, die mir nicht passt, die muss weg, egal wie. Das ist das Erste. Wir dürfen nicht weiter solche Kriege führen. Wir haben die Kriege geführt in Afghanistan, das Land ist zerstört. Wir haben in Irak den Krieg geführt, das Land ist zerstört. Unter Hussein, das war ein schlimmer Diktator, ging es den Irakern viel, viel besser als jetzt, wo Tausende sterben. Das kann doch so alles nicht weitergehen. Libyen hat man zerstört. Gaddafi war natürlich ein schlimmer Finger, aber was ist jetzt? Jetzt ist also wirklich Chaos dort. Im Grunde genommen ist der islamische Staat, wenn man so will, ein Ergebnis der verfehlten US-Politik. Und solange das nicht erkannt wird, solange wird es niemals eine Lösung geben. Und die Vereinigten Staaten sollen also aufhören, ihre Ölkriege zu führen und Gaskriege zu führen im Vorderen Orient. Das ist doch alles verlogen bis zum geht nicht mehr. Es geht doch nicht um Demokratie oder Frauenrecht oder sonst was. Es geht um Öl und um Gas.
I will not put American boots on the ground in Syria.
There's a bigger issue here that I'm concerned with, and that is the fact that the US and the CIA are working to overthrow the Syrian government of Assad, while Russia, a longtime ally of Assad for decades now, is working to defend or uphold this Syrian government of Assad. This puts us in a position of a possible direct head-to-head conflict with Russia as long as the US and CIA continue down this path.
So how do you avoid that potential collision?
Very simple. The US and the CIA should stop this illegal and counterproductive war to overthrow the Syrian government of Assad and should stay focused on fighting against who our enemy is, the Islamic extremist groups. There's not been a vote in Congress to authorize the use of force, to authorize a war to overthrow a sovereign government. So the American people haven't had a choice to speak their voice, to approve or disapprove such a war. Therefore, it's illegal.
is modern medicine so drug intensive? And it's not because patent petrochemical medicine is superior. It's because of monopoly medicine, which was created over 100 years ago.
The doctor is brainwashed when he gets out of medical school because the medical school has too much subsidization of the professors who are being paid by the drug company.
So this is the problem, and that goes back even further in time to the turn of the last century, when the Rockefeller Group and the Carnegie Group actually came together, and they decided that they would reform medical education in America.
Well, they would get a hold of the education system and create a medical monopoly via basically eliminating all competition to patent petrochemical medical education.
Carnegie and Rockefeller began to immediately shower hundreds of millions of dollars on these medical schools that were teaching drug-intensive medicine. By 1940, over 1,500 chiropractors would be prosecuted for practicing quackery. By 1950, all the schools teaching homeopathy were closed.
So cancer is just one element of this unspeakable business of defining diseases as a marketplace. Everything else that you see today around the pharmaceutical industry comes from the fact that it's a business model, an investment industry that thrives on the continuation of existing diseases and the launching of new diseases.
It's estimated by 2020 that more than half of all cancer in America will be medically induced from drugs or radiation. So our medical establishment itself will soon become the leading cause of cancer in America.
We know that 97% of people who undergo chemotherapy are dead in 5 years. That study was placed in the 2004 edition of the Journal of Oncology. It was the cancer doctors telling on themselves.
It's almost like sending in napalm because you've got an ant problem. So yes, you'll take care of the ants, possibly, but then you're going to take care of every other form of life, including the grass, and you're going to level the site just to try to get the ants. So the collateral damage are the people that live there in the same house as the ants, meaning that the normal endogenous healthy cells are also going to get massacred.
It does seem insane to treat cancer with chemotherapy and radiation that actually cause cancer, doesn't it? But doctors are required to do this. As a matter of fact, they suffer adverse consequences if they do not prescribe chemo and radiation. They can even lose their license to practice medicine.
Most patients never question their doctors because they think the doctor is the sole authority. Most patients don't even get a second opinion. Most patients believe the explanations, the diagnoses that the cancer doctors give them. Oh, this shadow on this x-ray, that means you have cancer. We have to start now or you're going to die. You know, the fear tactics that these oncologists use are highly unethical and really should be criminal. You cannot take and isolate every chemical out of a plant and expect that plant to have the same healing powers. And this is why chemical cancer medicine fails 97% of the time.
And what we're doing in modern medicine is saying, we don't care about the rules. We're going to change the rules. We know that you need vitamin D and sunshine, but we're going to say we can't patent that. So we're going to try and come up with a drug that bypasses all of those pathways. Nature to be commanded must be obeyed.
So this is the amazing thing. You take a poison, you give it to people, they die. It's part and parcel of the normal status quo, modus operandi. This is how it's supposed to be. Now you break that, you actually do something that's not toxic, you help patients, they live. Hey, we don't care whether the patient lives or not. That's irrelevant. It's not part of the standard of care.
You are persecuted because you destabilize all the system. So any big, true discovery make the old system useless. That's why you are shut down. Because we live in a medieval status. This is the real reason why cancer is still killing millions of people.
It's not easy to treat these advanced patients because we are continuously being harassed for doing this, okay? We are mercilessly harassed by lawyers, by people who know nothing about treatment, who are stupid puppets of the guys behind who knows very well what we can offer, but are directing these guys like in Nazi Germany, and they are simply obeying orders because they were programmed this way.
Almost 80 years ago, a scientist named Royal Raymond Rife faced jail time for using an unapproved treatment.
In the 1930s, Dr. Royal Rife, who was a microbiologist, knew that there were microbes inside the cancer cells. And he came up with an electromedicine device, a couple of them actually, which was designed to do nothing but kill the microbes inside the cancer cells. So he developed this technology. The American Medical Association tried to buy him out, and he refused because he did not trust them. So the Food and Drug Administration went down and destroyed his laboratory, his equipment, destroyed all of his inventory.
In the end, Dr. Rife's lab was burned, his records were stolen, his life was ruined, and he eventually died of a drug overdose. I want to be clear, we are not saying that everyone that works in the medical industry, the cancer industry, or the pharmaceutical companies are bad people. Not at all. That is not what we're trying to say. What we are saying in this documentary, and we're trying to communicate this fact, is that the entire medical system has been hijacked. We want to be clear that we communicate that. The problem is that the system is broken.
The one disease that the status quo, meaning the pharmaceutical investment business, needs most to continue its business, to stabilize, to cement its system, is cancer.
Once we get into the late 80s, early 90s, mind control was developed through satellite transmission so that you didn't have to be taken to a specific location to be programmed. You could be programmed eating lunch or sleeping or going about your daily business. And I always use the analogy that thoughts are film, the brain is the projector, and physical reality is the screen. The film can be replaced artificially through this programming process. And that's what the Illuminati do in order to download certain softwares into the mind so that certain functions via triggers are accessible. The programming and mind control is an embedded pattern that actually hooks onto your foundational mind patterns and is an overlay. And so you think that it's your own thought when actually it's been artificially introduced. When they take what we call a programming icon that have very specific softwares running, and they put them before a camera, or they have music that's on the radio or in a movie, what have you, those who are programmed to follow that icon will do the same. Look what happened when Britney Spears shaved her head. Next day, thousands of people around the world shaved their head. They did it because their icon did it, so they had to do it. The pineal gland produces a drug called adrenochrome. And if they extract that adrenochrome, it becomes a very powerful chemical that can be used for programming. Also, the energy or the components of the atomic structure of this adrenochrome can be downloaded into a software that can be then enhanced, boosted, transmitted to satellites, and then radiated down through scalar waves to a particular person, place, or thing, or to genetic groups, or to entire countries. And that's how they also are able to enhance their control systems. You know, in 1988, President Reagan was very happy to announce that the entire planet was ringed by satellites so that there was no place on Earth that would be considered remote anymore. But what he didn't say to complete the statement was that every place was now controllable. All mind control could be transmitted to anywhere on the Earth, no matter how isolated it was. It's a new world order. It's a global order. It doesn't matter what country you go to, where you think you're going to hide. The transmissions are there. That's why they want people to have cell phones and computers and even the electrical system in their house, which people have to realize is also part of the control system. The purpose of all of this mind control is to create a civilization that is obedient to the rules and regulations, that pays attention to the news media, the politicians, the religious leaders, and the school teachers. And so when they say something, you do it, no questions asked, complete and total obedience. And this will ensure the continuation of the society that they want. To educate humanity is a task. Because quite frankly, most people on this planet are so involved in their daily lives, paying their mortgages, keeping their jobs, having food, etc. Most people don't care what's going on outside their front door. Most people don't care who their leaders are as long as they have their cigarettes and their beer and everything else that they want to entertain themselves with. And that's the sad part about humanity. My hope is that people will wake up and realize that things are not the way they should be, that they need to take control of their own mind. I don't believe in physical revolution or physical violence. The war has to be in here. You have to take control of your brain, of your mind pattern, of your emotions, so that we can have the society we're supposed to have. So really, we must take responsibility. You can't blame the Illuminati or the aliens. They are here because we're allowing them to be here. If we change the way we think, change the film, project out something else, then they will have no power over us. It could happen tomorrow if everybody would wake up and do it. Will it eventually happen? I believe so. I think that humanity will be backed against a corner to the point where they'll say, hey, we've had enough and we're going to do something about this.
happening? Why is this star causing scientists to wonder in fascination what might be out there?
This star is breaking all the rules. We have to rewrite astronomy textbooks. Basically, if a planet eclipses the mother star, goes in front of the mother star, starlight drops by maybe 1% at maximum. However, starlight has been dropping at 22%. There is a colossal, humongous object of some sort blocking the starlight from this star.
La película tiene una base científica, yo creo que importante. Hay algún aspecto que se ha tomado una licencia el autor para darle un cierto dramatismo, que al fin y al cabo es una película, pero tiene otros muchos aspectos que son reales.
Real es la base donde Matt Damon se aísla del inhóspito clima exterior.
El tipo de habitáculos están ahora mismo en desarrollo.
Investigación efectuada por la MUFON, la Mutual UFO Network, que es una de las instituciones OVNI más importantes del mundo, confirma que, en base a estos testimonios de los que os voy a hablar, todo conduce a sospechar que la élite está llevando a cabo un proyecto secreto de colonización en Marte, donde supuestamente habría ya en tierras marcianas perfectamente varias bases permanentes, bases corporativas totalmente ocultas a la humanidad. Son muchos los denunciantes, personas que afirman haber estado ahí. Ya hemos hablado anteriormente del abogado Andrew Basiago, que dijo que incluso se había topado con Obama hace muchos años en Marte. Bueno, vamos a empezar hoy con el testimonio que está dando más que hablar en la MUFON últimamente, que es el señor Randy Kramer. Este señor asegura que a la edad de 17 años fue reclutado para viajar primero a la Luna, en su cara oculta, donde parece que hay una base también permanente, para luego establecerse en Marte, donde dice que estuvo viviendo ahí durante la friolera de 17 años. Al personaje de Kramer se suman otros que describen una tecnología muy parecida, o sea, la tecnología empleada para realizar estos viajes espaciales, estos proyectos espaciales secretos, ocultos, las descripciones son muy parecidas. El caso es que Randy Cramer nos habla de un programa espacial súper secreto que opera desde Marte. Al parecer, Marte habría sido ya colonizado, nos decía él, en 1960. Y no sería hasta 1975 cuando se habría establecido ya una operación minera en donde se extraerían minerales útiles para esta operación. Y dice que fue entrenado como un supersoldado, que él no estaba solo, que había un montón de jóvenes de su edad que estaban siendo instruidos, también estaban recibiendo una especie de instrucción casi de corte militar. Es decir, lo que querían era crear como un cuerpo de élite destinado a poblar la colonia marciana. Bueno, Randy Cramer nos describe su llegada a Marte de forma bastante peculiar, porque nos dice que el aire, aunque es un poco dificultoso de respirar, pero que es respirable, que se puede realizar sin ningún problema. Y lo interesante es que Cramer se atreve a decirnos que él, durante esos 17 años de permanencia en Marte, dijo que había 2 especies de nativos, o sea, autóctonos, bastante evolucionados, viviendo en Marte. Cramer nos habla también de vegetación y de un cielo que es azul durante la puesta de sol. Dice que en el resto del día adquiere tonos rojizos y de color púrpura. Esto ha sido confirmado también en varias fotografías, en donde incluso la NASA ha admitido en algunas ocasiones que durante estas puestas de sol efectivamente el cielo se ve azul, no rojo. Randy Cramer nos dice que cuando terminó el viaje, despertó en su habitación, se encontró de nuevo en su habitación de su casa, como si no hubiese pasado nada. Claro, muchos pueden pensar que esto fue, lógicamente, un sueño. Pero qué decir de todos esos episodios en los que parece que han intervenido entidades con esas tecnologías, con esas naves que son capaces de cruzar más allá del espacio y el tiempo. ¿En qué queda todo eso? ¿En un sueño? ¿En una invención? Yo francamente no lo sé. Simplemente lo expongo. Solamente os digo que los investigadores de la MUFON le conceden mucho crédito al testimonio de Cramer.